Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's White House friends list shrinks as tensions rise in peace talks. Best case scenario, he'll immediately leave for France. The always tense relationship between the two leaders has escalated into open hostility this week, the New York Post reports. While the deterioration in relations between Washington and Kiev seems sudden, one source familiar with the White House discussions said, "This is nothing new to me. I've been hearing for months that it's time for elections and new leadership." A second source close to Trump agreed with the assessment and suggested that the best option for Zelensky and the world would be for him to leave for France immediately. Meanwhile, a White House official admitted that he doesn't like Zelensky because he bans churches. Former White House defenders of Ukraine, including National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, have echoed Trump's views to criticize Zelensky but say nothing about Russian dictator Putin. The U.S. president's statements show that he wants the elections in Ukraine to take place as soon as possible, and for Zelensky to be replaced by someone more amenable to negotiations. This could be someone Trump and his allies trust, a military leader or a businessman, the publication noted. At the same time, sources noted that there is no obvious candidate that Trump would prefer. Presidential elections were due to be held in Ukraine last year, but were postponed due to the state of martial law Zelensky declared February 24, 2022, in response to the Russian invasion. According to the country's constitution, elections cannot be held under martial law. Tensions between Trump and Zelensky date back to 2019 when the then 45th president urged his counterpart to launch an investigation into the Biden family's dealings with Ukrainian natural gas company Burisma Holdings, which paid Hunter Biden a salary of $1 million a year while his father Joe Biden was vice president and leading American policy toward the country. Zelensky declined to launch the investigation but deftly navigated the ensuing controversy after the distribution of a transcript containing Trump's request, insisting he felt no pressure in that call, as congressional Democrats moved to impeach Trump for allegedly abusing his power. U.S. President Donald Trump repeated his criticism of Volodymyr Zelensky, again calling the Ukrainian president a dictator without elections and blaming him for the ongoing war. Zelensky was elected in 2019. The only thing he was really good at was playing Joe Biden like a fiddle, Trump said of Zelensky, adding that the Ukrainian leader wants the war to continue to keep the gravy train going. According to Associated Press, he repeated his claim that Ukraine has misused U.S. money and pushed for Europe to take on a greater role. "I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job," Trump said. "His country is shattered, and millions of people have died." Trump's assessment is at odds with the prevailing sentiment in the aftermath of Russia's 2022 invasion, when Ukrainian battlefield successes and Zelensky's leadership were sources of inspiration in the West.
Take a look at the death in the Middle East and the death that's taking place between Russia and Ukraine. It's been going on, and we're going to end it. There's no profit for anyone in having World War III, and you're not so far away from it. I'll tell you right now, you're not so far away. If we would have had this administration for another year, you would have been in World War III, and now it's not going to happen. A lot of people are calling, a lot of car companies are calling. They called me, three of the majors, they called and they said, we're looking all over the place, we want to be there. I'm going to be announcing tariffs on cars and semiconductors and chips and pharmaceuticals, drugs and pharmaceuticals and lumber probably and some other things over the next month or sooner. And going to have a big impact on America. We're bringing our businesses back. If they don't make their product in America, then they have to pay a tariff. But if they do make their product in America, they don't have to pay any tariff, which will it's all going to bring trillions of dollars into our treasury, or it's going to mean that there won't be any taxes because we won't have a fair base. But think of it, a modestly successful comedian, President Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that basically couldn't be won. that never had to start and never would have started if I was president, not even a chance, and it didn't start for 4 years. He refuses to have elections, is low in the real Ukrainian polls. I mean, how can you be high with every city is being demolished? It's hard to be high. Somebody said, oh no, his polls are good, give me a break. Every city is being demolished. They look like a demolition site, every single one of them. And the only thing he was really good at was playing Joe Biden like a fiddle. He played him like a fiddle. That's an expression we use, Yasser, to say that he's pretty easy, pretty easy. A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. Got to move fast because that war is going in the wrong direction. In the meantime, we're successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia. Something I'll admit that only Trump is going to be able to do in the Trump administration. We're going to be able to do it. I think Putin even admitted that. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably maybe he wants to keep the gravy train going. I don't know what's the problem, but he hasn't been able. He's very upset that he wasn't invited. He could have come if he wanted to, but that he wasn't invited to Saudi Arabia. But he's been working for 3 years. There's never been even meetings or phone calls to stop this war. It's a horrible thing. People respect America now, and we were a country of peace, and we brought peace to the rest of them. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions of people have unnecessarily died. And you can't bring a war to an end if you don't talk to both sides. You got to talk. They haven't been talking for 3 years. Look, I don't want to be, I wish I could say, I wouldn't have run. If I thought Biden was doing a good job, if I thought I wouldn't have run. Because as I said, it was very dangerous to run in a lot of ways. In fact, my ear will show that when you look at it closely. My ear, I have that throbbing feeling every once in a while, but it was dangerous in a lot of different ways. But he was so bad that I had no choice but to do it.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and First Lady Alina Zelenska paid tribute on Thursday to those killed in the country's 2014 anti-government protests. According to Associated Press, Zelensky and the First Lady were seen placing candles at a memorial dedicated to those killed who have become known as the Heavenly 100 Heroes in Kyiv. On November 21, 2013, the Moscow-friendly president of Ukraine, Viktor Yanukovych, announced he was shelving an agreement to bring the country closer to the European Union and instead would deepen ties with President Vladimir Putin's Russia. Outraged crowds soon filled Independence Square for peaceful anti-government protests. Later, after riot police used truncheons and tear gas to disperse the people, demonstrators set up tent camps with barricades, self-defense units and banners with revolutionary slogans. In response to the police violence, hundreds of thousands joined the demonstrations in early December. The standoff reached a climax in February 2014, when police unleashed a brutal crackdown on the protests and dozens of people were slain between February 18 to 21, many by police snipers. A European-mediated peace deal between the government and protest leaders envisioned the formation of a transition government and holding an early election, but demonstrators later seized government buildings, and Yanukovych fled to Russia. The Ukrainian Institute of National Remembrance said 107 people were killed in the uprising.